Another Dooley Noted podcast comes to you from the Coach's Podcast Room at Spurrier's Gridiron Grill in Celebration Point. Okay, and welcome into another Dooley Noted podcast. No, how about a podcast brought to you by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Gator Studios. Actually, the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios today because we are at home. You can see the damage that was done to my face walking into a tree. It's way better than it was. The ring light is making it stand out, but hopefully you guys that are watching this can avoid vomiting. But that would be any show, really, with me on it. My daughter actually on Monday or Tuesday came over here to get the ring light. Actually, she was using it for Halloween, and she was like, I thought she was going to puke because it was pretty bad. It got pretty bad. Monday and Tuesday was bad. It's way better now. And I appreciate everybody who's said something nice to me. I always tell everybody, you should see the tree. Yeah. Anyway. All right. So let's get to, Tom Murphy's going to join us today from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Look forward to talking to him and then Coach Spurrier on Monday. I'm not sure who we're going to get for Thursday. I don't know whether to go with an LSU guy that knows LSU, probably Scott Rabelais, somebody like that. Or go with a national guy because there's so many big games. I'll make that decision probably Friday and go ahead and contact somebody. But it'll be a great guest. We've got nothing but the best here on the show. Let us get to our Process Service of Gainesville starting five, brought to you by Process Service of Gainesville, Scott Hart, and the great work he does there. Appreciate him so much for being a sponsor. All of our sponsors, we love them so much. And they keep this thing alive, like Frankenstein's monster, which is what I look like a little bit right now. All right, number one on the Process Service of Gainesville starting five. The bad news that came out yesterday, Shamar James lost for the season, had a kneecap that got dislocated. And again, everybody wants to blame the turf in Jacksonville. Jacksonville put out a statement saying it's not the turf's fault. We did it along the guidelines, whatever. I don't even know whether it had anything to do with it or not. I just couldn't believe it. I'm watching the start of the game, and they go, "Oh, look what happened to Shamar James." And then he played in the game, but I guess it got really bad, and so this is a high school injury that got worse. So certainly not good news for a team that's going to have to stop the run. And there's no doubt about it. That's going to be very difficult for them. It's one reason why I got to admit I went back on the quarterback club contest picks and changed my pick. Manny Nunnery's played a lot though, but again, Florida's middle linebackers, their inside linebackers are not big. They have not developed physically yet. Scooby Williams is going to be a really good player. I think Nunnery might be a good player. I know Shamar James is going to be a good player. They've all got to get a little bigger. You don't have to get up to 255 or something like. You don't have to weigh what KJ Jefferson weighs, who's probably going to be trying to run over you guys the whole game, and that should be a big fear for them. Not being humiliated, but giving up yardage and long plays. And that's the funny thing. They do throw a lot of deep balls. They aren't successful very often, and I don't know if that's going to be part of the thing that they have scaled back offensively, because they've scaled back 30% of their offense according to Sam Pittman. So is that what they scale back? Then maybe they don't throw as many deep balls. This is going to be tough for Austin Armstrong because he's got a coordinator he's never seen before, but it's not like they're putting new plays in. When they say they cut down 30% of their playbook, and they may even be cutting more of it, you know what they're going to do. They're just going to try to pound the ball. They're going to run it with the quarterback, and then they'll do some play action. It's going to be very simple offense. Are you physical enough to stop it? Well, you weren't against Kentucky. They didn't do anything fancy. You were against Tennessee at home. Hopefully that'll work. But it's not going to be easy. I mean, this is going to be a tough game. And I think that, I talked about this earlier this week on the tailgate show. This team is almost beaten a lot of teams. They almost beat Alabama, lost by 3, at Alabama, at LSU, lost by 3. So coming to the Swamp, if you've been to Baton Rouge and Tuscaloosa, coming to the Swamp is not like something you're not ready for. I mean, those are two of the toughest places to play. Gator fans will tell you the Swamp's the toughest place to play, and it's just an argument about decibels, But I think all three of them, they're probably the top three in the country. And again, I don't really count Georgia, mainly because we've only been there. I used to go there a lot when I used to cover Georgia, but we've only been there once in a long time, so I have no idea how loud and everything. I guess I can always ask people, but you never know. But anyway. I think you see the point there. So we'll see what happens in Florida, dealing with some other injuries. Cam Jackson's hurt. They don't know if he's going to play. It's going to be, hey, look, win by one. It's always win by one. Spread was 7, dropped to 6 already. So, that money's coming in on Alabama. Let's get to number 2 on our process service of Gainesville starting 5. And that is that, hey, look, all this stuff that they're doing to salute the troops is great. The black uniforms, great. Look, I'm not a big fan of wearing alternate uniforms, but somebody made a point. I think it was actually the Florida uniform people put out a tweet today or this week where they pointed out that football is the last sport that hasn't worn black. This is now it's complete. Black uniforms are fine. I don't particularly. I'm a big believer in you pull on your blue jersey and your orange helmet and you go win the effing football game. That's the way I feel. But that's me. That's not helping recruiting. I know that this is a big deal for recruiting and raising money to help the troops. I understand all that. But in the end, none of that matters. Whether you wear black to the game, whether you buy one of those towel water bottle combos that are black, all that stuff. None of that's just marketing and doing stuff there. And look, I'm not saying it's not important. I'm just saying the most important thing about Saturday is winning that game. Find a way to win the game. You got a home game against a team that's 0-5 in the SEC. You better figure out a way to win it. And it doesn't mean you have to win it by a lot. Just win it. Win by one. That's all you have to do. And I know that a lot of it has to do with bowl eligibility, and everybody keeps talking about that. Sometimes I think the guys, it almost hurts this team because they go, well, if we lose this one, we can't go to a bowl. But, and we'll see what happens with this team going forward. But look, I talked about this on the radio the other day, and I think this is important, and I just want to get it off my chest again. I've had multiple people come up to me and say, you guys keep talking about how is Billy Napier going to get fired? And I go, I don't think we really ask that question. We tell people you may want him fired, but he's not getting fired. But several people have told me this, where they say, people that I'm around never talk about it. They don't consider it even an option or something they want to do or something that they're even thinking about doing. I go, yeah, you're probably right. There are a lot of lunatic fringe people out there. We all want to see Florida get better. We want to see them win more games. 6-6 would not be an improvement, obviously, record-wise, but we've seen things this year going in the right direction. And in terms of the talent that is being assembled. But anyway, anybody who's talking about Billy Napier getting fired just doesn't understand what's going on. All right. Number 3 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5. Of course, the big reveal was Tuesday night. No real big surprises. Yeah, Ohio State was one. Of course, they were one because they beat Notre Dame and Penn State. Those are 2 really good wins. The trouble they have is that the top 4 teams, there's a lot of I don't want to say it's negative. They're all undefeated, but there's a lot of, who they beat. It's that way with Georgia. Who is Georgia beaten? Florida's probably the best team they've beaten. No, it'd be Kentucky. Well, Kentucky's fallen off the rails. So no, I just I'm not surprised. Ohio State 1, Georgia 2, Michigan 3, FSU 4. That sounds about right. FSU's not beating anybody. Clemson and everybody in that league is so bad. They've got to be rooting for Louisville. if you're an FSU fan, you want Louisville to play well so you can play them in the ACC title game and get a quality win and make sure. Now, I don't think there's any way they could get dropped out of it, but I tried to look this up today, and I couldn't find it anywhere, so maybe somebody could tell me. But the old way it was is that number one seed got to pick where it played its game, and they play the 4, obviously. So if you end up the 4 and Ohio State says, and it ends up being Ohio State or it ends up being Michigan, they go, well, we want to play in the Rose Bowl. So that's not good for your fan base. But if you're Georgia or FSU, the other one is, I think, the Sugar, right, this year. And so you want to finish 2 or 3. You can't. Well, I guess you could both finish 2 and 3. If 2 and 3, imagine an FSU Georgia Sugar Bowl game, it'd be 50-50 game. But anyway, it has. I think that's still the rule, but I'm not 100% sure because they change the rules on the playoffs so many times. It kind of drives me nuts. Anyway, all right, let's get to number 4 in our process service of Gainesville starting 5, and that would be the passing of Bobby Knight. I've got one good story on Pat Dooley's Storytime about Bobby Knight. I didn't have a lot of interaction with him, but I had some. In fact, I remember one year Florida was playing, it would have been around 2002. Yeah, somewhere in that area. They're playing in Chicago in the NCAA regional, and the team that was in the other pod that they wouldn't face, but they were there, the way they used to do that, was Texas Tech. So I said, well, I'm going to go to the Bobby Knight press conference. I'm not going to ask any questions, but I just want to hear, I want to just see it. And I've only seen him once in person. This is only the second time, so I want to go see it. Yeah, he was a total jerk in it, hates the media. And that's one reason I don't like him. I'd never liked him, obviously. And the story I'll tell is a really good story later on. But as a coach, unbelievable. Could not succeed now in this day and age. Can you imagine Bobby Knight with NIL? He would be losing his mind. He would be worse than Dabo in terms of transfer portal and NIL. He would just be going, I'm done. I'm leaving the profession. There's a great column written by Dan Wetzel, who has been on this podcast, and we'll have him on again, that he wrote about Bobby Knight. And obviously he knew Bobby Knight was about to pass away for a while. It's been a long illness. So he had to have an obit column ready, which I did that with Charlie Pell when he was suffering from cancer. You do that in the profession. But it's a great column, and it really captures Bobby Knight. There's also I highly recommend, Pat Forty retweeted this, an old, I think it was from 91, Frank DeFore piece in Sports Illustrated that's incredible. But they both tell you the same story, which is this guy had incredible discipline. He expected you to be disciplined. But he himself, no, he wasn't disciplined because he would lose himself on all these rants, and he was a misogynist, and he would have off-color jokes and stuff like that. And, wasn't my favorite guy. But as a coach, well, I'd want him coaching my team. Back in the old days when you didn't have to pay players to play. But anyway, he was a great coach. I'm not going to take anything away from him as a coach. Wasn't a great person, in my opinion. Now, but at the same time, he did a lot of really good things for people. But that, just go read Season on the Brink. It's still, I think, the best. I always say Ball 4 is the best sports book, but actually Season on the Brink is the best sport. It's all about that one season, and John Feinstein did it. It's really good, and it gives you a good look into him. How he would not put up with cheaters, and would call out cheaters. How he graduated almost all of his players. He also put his hands around a player's neck to choke him one time. He threw a chair. I mean, there was all these. It was like a dichotomy of personalities, but. Anyway, I got a good story later on. All right, and finally, number 5 on the process service of Gainesville starting 5. Congratulations to the Texas Rangers. You finally have won a World Series. Pretty amazing stats. So these are the two. Again, I finally watched a little bit of it last night. The guy had the no-hitter going, so I watched a little bit of it. But then once they couldn't score in the eighth, I went away from it, rightfully so. Will Smith, not the actor or puncher, slapper, I guess I would say, but the baseball pitcher, 3 straight years has won the World Series. Now, he won it this year, obviously, with the Rangers, won it last year with the Astros, won it the year before with the Braves. He was a closer for the Braves. So if you're a baseball team, you should be saying, whatever it takes, Will Smith is going to be on our team. If you're the Yankees and the Mets, get him on your team. If you're anybody, get him on your team. I don't know that he's that good, but he's on teams that win championships. He's okay. Aroldis Chapman too has now been part of 2 franchises that have ended unbelievable streaks. The Cubs, obviously, when they won it, he was on that team, and now the Rangers, who won their first ever after I think it's 68 years or something. So those are weird things that have happened. But anyway, I know that the World Series got terrible ratings, worse than the WNBA, I think, or worse than the college women's national title game. It got terrible ratings because it was 2 teams that there was no villain. There was 2 teams that don't have. I mean, they had big markets. I mean, it's not like Phoenix and Dallas are small markets. I mean, they're big market cities, but they just don't have the fan base that some of these other places have. I mean, and the casual fan is not going to tune in for Arizona and Texas, just the way it is. So, and I didn't watch a little bit of it, but not much. But anyway, I think you need a villain. I believe that in all sports. You always need a team to root against if you can't decide who to root for. I've got those. I got plenty of them. I got too many of them. That's my problem. All right, that's going to do it for our process service of Gainesville starting 5. Appreciate Scott Hart for that. We will take a break. When we come back, Tom Murphy from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette is going to tell you everything you need to know about the Arkansas Razorbacks here on another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studio.
Process Service of Gainesville offers a rapid turnaround on affidavits of service for Gator lawyers locally and nationwide. Our friend Scott Hart offers immediate responses on status requests and is a member of NAPS and FAPS. And he has been a part of the community for almost 2 decades. Need service? Call Process Service of Gainesville at 407-697-9592 or email shartgators, that's G8TR, at yahoo.com. And make sure you ask about the paralegal legal secretary bonus program.
I was driving behind a lady, and very suddenly she moved out of the way. There was a log laying in the road, and when I hit my brakes, I went on top of the log. I had 280 discs. I just haven't been the same since. Jeffrey Meldon fought for me all the way. Him and his team really went there for me. Throughout the whole lawsuit, he made sure that my bills was paid. It was never no whenever I called him and asked him for something.
Call Meldon Law right now.
Hello there, everybody. I'm Pat Dooley, of course, from another Dooley Noted podcast. And this is a great Adam Brewer, and he's just opened up a place here, Adam Brewer To Go. What gave you the idea to do this, to have a to-go place?
We really like the fast concept, being able to get the barbecue. Now we have this new online ordering. So before it was a call ahead carry out, quick service. We have like a curbside kind of a deal where everything's ready to go for you. And then we thought, wow, we have a really great dine-in concept, but how can we make this streamlined for the customer and make it easy and accessible for all parts of town?
Adam's Rib Co. To Go. Come on down and enjoy it. Gator fans, football season is here. What's better than seeing the Gators back on the field? Easy. Seeing amazing speakers and fellow Gator fans weekly at the Gainesville Quarterback Club. Held every Tuesday night of a home game at the Best Western Gateway Grand. Enjoy happy hour, great food, valuable insights from yours truly and Andy Staples, plus notable speakers throughout the season. As the oldest Gator booster club in the world, Gainesville Quarterback Club gives you access to elite speakers like coaches, NCAA football insiders, Gator greats, and more. Share your passion for Gator football with hundreds of other members at weekly in-season meetings, home tailgates, and special events throughout the year. Join the Gainesville Quarterback Club today. Email the club at membership@quarterbackclub.org or visit thequarterbackclub.org. Or better yet, just give me a call and I'll get you to the right people. Okay, and welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Great pleasure to bring on our friend Tom Murphy from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette. Does a great job covering them, and he knows a lot about Arkansas in all sports, but especially football this week. I don't know, Tom, are you going to make it down to the Swamp?
I'll be there, man. Third time since 2013. The Razorbacks have played down that way. So yeah, I'll be in attendance.
Yeah, in fact, when I was doing some research for something I wrote for Gators Wire, my 12 things you need to know about Arkansas, I started reading some kind of fanny blogs, and I couldn't believe how mad they still are about 2009. And I don't even remember the game. All I remember is Caleb Sturgis hit a field goal at the end to win it. But it still bugs them.
Well, I won't go into a ton of details, but the crew was suspended. There was a personal foul on Malcolm Shepard that was called. There was some offensive pass interference in the end zone on the game-winning field goal drive, where there's a picture of Riley, the receiver, pinning a defensive back's arm behind him. So some things happened.
Well, and I think that's the funny thing about it is that year I think Gator fans were so lost in that they wanted to get to be undefeated, and it was such a miserable process to do it. And I've said this before, and other people have said it. That was the most miserable undefeated team I ever covered. But so we're just thinking about, whatever. But obviously, they're probably still mad about that Tony Bua headbutt that he got called for in Fayetteville, right? I mean, that kind of cost them that game.
Well, yeah, that was a big call, and I don't hear as much about that one, but I'm aware of it. I didn't cover that particular game.
All right, so let's talk about obviously what Sam Pittman did. And look, we don't usually see coordinators fired in the middle of the season, even though all the fans want it to happen. But this time it did happen. Again, you scored 3 against Mississippi State. And that means you almost have to do something. Again, you're last in the offense. Arkansas is in total yards, so they had to do something, right?
Well, I think so, and he was pretty stubborn about some things he was doing or not calling. Like, for instance, Sam Pittman would say on a weekly basis, we have to move the pocket with KJ. We're giving defenses a defined point to attack, and he's getting sacked a lot, and they didn't move the pocket very much. They did a little bit in the LSU game, 34-31 loss on the road, but not so much afterwards. And I just think they were carrying a ton of offense. KJ Jefferson was probably weighed down mentally on what he had to read before the snap, what he had to read, after the play started. Their meshes in the backfield looked slow and clumsy, laborious, and so they haven't had any running holes. The offensive linemen haven't held their blocks long enough, and when you score 3 points and have 200 yards of offense at home against a team that had been torn up by some other SEC West teams, you do have to make a move. And so they say there's all this enthusiasm and everything with Kenny Guyton. We'll find out more about that on Saturday.
Yeah, and I'm sure that these guys are buying in. They probably want to see a change too. But my question to you, because you watch this team, I've watched them on TV. Obviously, you've been around them. Offensive line-wise, they have given up 31 sacks. Now, how much of that is KJ not getting rid of the ball? How much of it is him trying to run and maybe taking a 1-yard loss? And how much of it is their offensive line needs to get a lot better?
There's a lot of all of that, especially the O-line. But I also think the communication aspect between, what protection scheme are we in, and somebody not hearing it, and then there's the physical part. And I was listening to the broadcast at the time, and Lewis Riddick was bringing up some good points about Mississippi State was running a simple twist, and they were sending their linebacker looping around on the inside, Nathaniel Watson. And there was a couple of times where the lineman who should have come off his guy to fill that spot stayed with the other block, and Watson came in clean, and there's not much KJ Jefferson can do about that. He's avoided some sacks as well, but I think the backs have missed protections. The tight ends haven't been great at chipping, and the O-line has struggled. So when you add it all up, 31 sacks is the result.
Yeah, absolutely. And again, he said he's cut out 30% of the offense and made it more simple, which to me would be basically, hey, KJ, just take the snap and run. Their best linebackers out for the game, out for the season, and you're bigger than all the other linebackers on this team, so you should be able to just run over them.
Yeah. I think the quarterback run game will be more a part of what they do. They ran into a problem. I think they felt like they were going to be good enough offensively that Dan Enos could kind of show KJ the pro quarterback style. Mm-hmm. But lo and behold, games 1, 2, and 3, they're not running the ball very well because they didn't want to have to run KJ Jefferson as much. Well, here they are through 3 games. They're not running it as well as a whole. And now they're like, okay, let's just go back to what KJ does better. But they still haven't. His running has been okay. Like in the Alabama game, he had a couple of scrambles. A couple of other games, he's ran the ball fairly well. But just the traditional run game, the RPO, it hasn't worked. And, I mean, they have really struggled. They're probably averaging around 1 yard before contact on their run plays, and so many contact in the backfield too. So I think they just want to simplify the blocking schemes and just see if they can get that mesh going faster. Looks like Rocket Sanders will be available in this game. And so maybe they can just they're going to try to just lean on the run game a little more, lean on KJ running, as you just mentioned, and see, roll the dice and see if that works down there.
Yeah. I mean, again, we saw Kentucky do that against Florida. And then at the same time, when Tennessee came in here, they couldn't run the ball. So, Florida was, home field seems to help there. But, this defense has kept them in a lot of games. And it's amazing to think about how they're 0-5 in the SEC, but they have 5 losses this season, not all in the SEC. One of them was BYU, by 7 points or less. That's why I keep telling Gator fans, if you think this is going to be easy because they're 2-6, it has nothing to do with them being 2-6. They played everybody right to the vest. They just have to find a way to win a game. Yeah,
that's a good point. I think Florida fans should understand is the Ole Miss game was 7. LSU game, they were scoring, and then LSU was having to answer right up till the very end, and LSU got a late field goal with a great clock management drive. And every other game besides Texas A&M, they've been in it. I mean, you lose it by 3 at Alabama, you've hung in there. You've done a pretty good job. So the defensive numbers, I just wrote something on this a minute ago. They've improved 92 spots in total defense over the course of this year. So Travis Williams has inspired the players. They have good schemes. Now, some games, late in games, they've given up some scores. The LSU game, the BYU game, they gave up some late scores. So they were really good on turnover margin at the start of the year, and that's dropped off some too. And Florida doesn't turn the ball over much. So they're going to have to earn it. They're going to have to, they're going to have to control the Florida run game to start with. And I don't know how well they can do that, particularly because it's on the road. So we'll see. Coming off an open date, I give them a decent chance to have a solid defensive performance. And then at that point, can your offense generate enough to give yourselves a chance to win?
I mean, it's funny. Everybody wants everybody fired when things don't go well. And Sam Pittman, I think, is fine there. I mean, what he was able to do. And I saw a story, I think, by Topmeyer about how if he doesn't win any more games, it's a cheaper buyout. And I'm like, why are we even discussing this? I don't think he's in trouble, but maybe you know better than I do whether he's in any trouble if they go 3-9, for example.
Right. I think generally Hunter Yurachek does not want to make a move just from the start. But they should beat Florida International here, but what if you lose to Florida and don't compete as well as you have in some other conference games, and then Auburn comes in here and wins? Then the fan base is really, really upset. Missouri at the season end looks like a tough out right now.
Yeah.
So it's to be told yet. They don't want to. He does have a lesser buyout if his record is below 500, but that does not include the 2020 season. Hunter Yurachek wiped that from the books because of COVID, and it was Sam's first year. So he was 4 games,
3-7 that year.
3-7, so 4 games below 500. And so if his record is 4 games below 500 after this year, then he's basically at 500, and that clause does not kick in.
Well, so how much do you think Arkansas fans are looking forward to coming back to the Swamp? I mean, they haven't been here in a long time. It's a little bit nicer. It's going to be a lot nicer eventually. But are they? Is this one of those ballparks that I think a lot of people, I know they do, with Baton Rouge and other places, feel like you need to go to? You need to see it.
Well, yeah, but they were there in 20, the COVID year, when the SEC granted them the 2 extra games of Georgia and Florida.
Which very nice of them.
Yeah, they still haven't gotten over that. And then to hear the broadcast of it, like, take in consideration, these are extra games are, with the whole schedule thought through, and like, what? So Arkansas will have been to Florida for a 3rd time since the last time they've been to Vanderbilt. So 3 road games at Florida, 0 games at Vanderbilt since 2011. They played there in 13, 20, and now this year. I enjoy the trip just because it's cold here right now, and I'm looking forward to being in the warm again for just a couple of more days.
Yeah, it should be a beautiful day that day.
It should, and I just think fans, going to Florida is always a fun deal, and they're just tired of getting gifted that game, I guess you could say.
Well, it's funny that you brought that up, because the whole, I've been very critical of the SEC and the way they've scheduled over the years, and hopefully they've got it straightened out going forward. But the famous Georgia's never been to Texas A&M. How do you allow that to happen? And like you say, they don't go to Vanderbilt, but they go to Florida 3 times. I mean, there's no rhyme or reason to the scheduling, and hopefully they've got it figured out now. Going forward. Yeah,
I would like to think that they do, that there's more competitive balance to it. Like, I always argued that LSU had, in recent years, the last decade or 15 years, a much tougher. Florida's an annual opponent, and Alabama's was playing Tennessee when they were down, and I know that's a small period of time, but LSU's route to the SEC West title was so much more difficult than Alabama's in recent years.
Absolutely. All right. Tom Murphy coming to us on our Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. It is time to play Yes, No Way, or Maybe with them. Brought to you by Big Mills Cheesesteak, street dining done the right way. If you go in there and say you were watching or listening to another duly noted podcast, you get free fries with your order. Okay, number 1, Tom, on Yes, No Way, or Maybe, Rocket Sanders will have an impact on Saturday's game.
You did not prepare me for this, but I think I can play it. Yes, he will have an impact, but I don't know if it will be a drastic impact. They have not had many rushing lanes at all. He's at 91 yards for the season. The poor guy. The knee's been bothering him, but he'll have an impact. Is that 30 or 40 yards, maybe?
All right, and number 2, the SEC will play 9 games in 2025. 9-game schedule in 2025.
I don't think it's going out on a limb to say yes.
Yeah, I think that I stand by what an AD told me, which was that ESPN was firing people. They couldn't ask for more money from them, for next year. So I think by 2025 they'll say, okay, we'll give you a little more for that extra game. At least that's my theory, and I'm sticking to it. Let's get to number 3 on Yes, No Way, or Maybe with Tom Murphy from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette on the Big Mills Cheesesteak Zoom line. Jaden Daniels will win the Heisman Trophy.
I will go, since I've had 2 yeses, I'm going to go on with one of the other options. And I don't want to say no way, but I really don't think he will, but simply because of team performance. But Arkansas fans were way upset over the summer that Jaden Daniels was going to be the number one, first team all SEC quarterback. He's got a lot more talent around him, a better offensive line. And so for him to win SEC Offensive Player of the Year, yeah, that's within the realm. But Heisman, no way.
Yeah, I think a lot of people are gonna vote for him because he has really been as impressive as anybody else. And the trouble is, I don't really like. I'm a voter, and you are too. I'm kind of in a situation right now where I'm like, look, November's going to decide it. Let's face it, we got all these great games and great players in these great games. For example, if Jaden Daniels goes up and lights up Alabama and they win that game, he's kind of back in the middle of that race. But yeah, who knows how it's going to go.
I think he could, but you forced me into saying no way or maybe after my two yeses. So I'll just go with a maybe then. How about that?
You can go with a hedge. We'll hedge on this one a little bit. Well, Tom, great talking to you, buddy, and have fun. Have a safe trip down here to lovely Gainesville, okay, where the weather is always beautiful, except for those 3 days of winter that we have every year.
You bet, Pat. I always enjoy chopping it up with you, man. Thanks for having me on.
All right, my brother. We'll see you. Tom Murphy from the Arkansas Democrat-Gazette will be back with more of another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios.
Great food, great atmosphere, a diverse menu, everything made from scratch, plenty of space, and locally owned. These are all the characteristics of a great restaurant, and you can find each and every one of them right here in Gainesville at Ballyhoo Grill. Ballyhoo Grill prepares all of their food fresh every day, from their salad dressing to their award-winning soups. Bring your family and enjoy dinner under the Tim Trebo Tiki Hut while listening to live music. Or if you're running low on time to eat out, they also deliver through Uber Eats, Bite Squad, and Postmates. A Gainesville staple that's been open for over 30 years. Check out Ballyhoo Grill on Facebook or at ballyhoogrill.com.
Thursday, November the 16th, come celebrate the release of our Spurrier's Gridiron Grill Lugo's Risky Rum. This exclusive release features a special spread of our farm-to-table food, rum cocktails, raffles, and a meet and greet with me. Each ticket includes a bottle of Spurrier's Single Barrel Select Risky Rum. And I'll sign the bottle if you'd like. So get your ticket before they sell out at spurriers.com.
This Tuesday at Gainesville Quarterback Club, we have our annual Golden Gator Gala. We welcome back former Gator player and now entertainer Jimmy Travis, and we'll honor our 50-plus year members. Then the next week, we welcome Buddy Martin, program editor and publisher of Gator Bait magazine and The Buddy Martin Show.
Things have certainly got a little out of hand lately when it comes to just buying our everyday necessities. Just look at gas, streaming services, and heck, even chicken wings. Well, there is one necessity that shouldn't cost a ton: taking care of yourself and helping fix all the aches and pains in life, and the fine folks at Titan MRI agree. With costs a fraction of what you'd pay at a hospital, you'll not only save money, you'll be taken care of by staff with over 20 years experience. So when you need an MRI, call Titan first, and you can go where your doctors send their families. Now offering CAT scans.
Okay, welcome back to another Dooley Noted podcast presented by Titan MRI from the Meldon Law Dooley Dome Gator Studios. Appreciate all of you for either listening or watching. And appreciate our guest, Tom Murphy, today. Again, Coach Spurrier on Monday. Let's go ahead and get right to the Gainesville Quarterback Club Great Picks, which we do every week. And I have rallied a little bit. I'm only one under, or one below 500. My turnover ratio is -1. That's the way I should put it. And we'll have 5 games to pick. The games that I picked in the first show on Monday are all being played tonight. It should be a lot of fun. Can't wait for them. It's actually a really good Thursday schedule. It's not. No, let me take that back. It's a watchable Thursday schedule. It's not that great. So here we go. Missouri, 15.5 they're getting against Georgia. Now this line opened at 20.5. So when I make my picks for the back 9 column that I do for WRUF, I always use whatever the spread is right then. But when I do it for this, whatever the spread is right then, I've got to go with what the spread is. In fact, my wife's getting ready to go to Vegas, so I'm trying to get her to make some bets for me. But then I started thinking about it, and said, "Yeah, I'm one under. I'm behind. I'm losing. So I'm losing money. So don't bet anything." But Missouri, I am going to take Missouri and 15.5 points against Georgia at Georgia. I think Missouri is underrated. I think they're a good enough team to keep this game close. I don't think they'll win. I have no business thinking they're going to win. But I think they'll keep it under 15.5. I mean, 14 is under 15.5. Excuse me. All right, LSU is getting 3 points at Alabama. I picked it the same way everywhere I've made my picks, and I'm taking the Tide. I just I think LSU's defense is so bad that they're going to feel like a lot of pressure, and they're at Alabama. Although Alabama hadn't played that great at home, it did open at 7.5 and is already down to 3. So a lot of money coming in on LSU. Ole Miss is giving 3 against Texas A&M. I haven't even made this pick because I made it somewhere and I don't even remember who I picked. I'm gonna give 3 points. I don't think A&M's any good, to be honest with you. I'm gonna take Ole Miss in the 3 and give the 3. Florida, Arkansas, 6 points. I changed my pick on the picks, but hey, guys, Gators, go win this game. But I said win by 1, so that means I should take Arkansas. Sorry, but that's what I'm going to do. I think Florida wins on a field goal. And they've got a great field goal kicker. Cam Little's really good. And then USC getting 3.5, against Washington. I'm going to take Washington, USC. It will be a great game. You know that. It'll be 60-59 or something like that. It is must-see TV. You know, everybody talks about, Colorado's must-see TV. No, they're not. They're not must-see TV. That toy is not shiny anymore. USC's toy is shiny every game because, again, you're rooting against them. I don't like Lincoln Riley because Lincoln Riley doesn't like the media. You don't like the media, I don't like you. That's just the way it is. If you out there are watching this and don't like the media, okay, that's okay. But you're watching me, so you must like it a little bit. But if you're, and again, don't put me in the same or put sports writers in the same category as news writers or anything like that, anything political or anything like that. We're just watching ball. That's all we do. There was a point to be made there, but anyway, I'm taking Washington. I think they'll score the most points. So that is our Gainesville Quarterback Club. Great picks, and of course they have Jimmy Travis is coming for their gala on Tuesday. He used to go by his name, Jim Getson, and he was a kicker at Florida, and he missed a kick against Miami that would have won the game. And I never forgive him for it. But, he's an entertainer, apparently really good. Ron Zook was tremendous on Tuesday night, by the way. He still talks the same way, never takes a breath. Just boom, 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 boom. But he was very funny and gave us some really good insight and some things. So appreciate him. So there's our Gainesville Quarterback Club guests. Great picks. Let's get to our Adams Ribco to go Gator of the Week. In this case, it will be, and I'll probably pronounce her name wrong. I kind of looked to see if there was a pronunciation guide, but I may have missed it. Alaya Madharu. That's what I'm going with. I'll find out how to pronounce her name, but this is the first game she's played for Florida. She is a great story in that she transferred. She had to sit out a year because she had already transferred once. She was at Mississippi State, then to Texas, then transferred here, but she had to sit out. First game in an exhibition game, scores 20 points. They think she's going to be special. That was against Florida Southern. So Aliyah, we'll find out how to pronounce the name, I promise. I found out how to spell Mazuka. I mean, come on. I had to pronounce Mazuka. I got that one now. But anyway, one game in, she's already the Adams Ribco to go Gator of the Week. So we'll have another Gator of the Weekend on Monday. Look forward to that. Look forward to getting some ribs tonight. I think that's what we're doing. I'm looking forward to it. From Adams Ribco to go. All right. Let's get to Hesser and Kipke, 3 things. And as you know, Hesser and Kipke is a Gainesville law firm specializing in the areas of workers' compensation and family law. Ken and Jennifer take great pride in their one-to-one focus on each and every client they represent. Ken is board certified in workers' compensation law by the Florida Bar, while Jennifer possesses extensive jury trial experience with a nearly 20-year background as a prosecutor. Don't believe me? Well, check out their 5-star Google reviews, set an appointment at hklawfl.com, or better yet, give them a call at 352-339-9920. That is Hesser and Kipke. All right. Let's get back to our Zoom meeting here. Okay. I had to read that. All right. So number one on Hesser and Kipke's three things. They've already come out with the odds for baseball next year. They always do that right after the World Series. And the Braves are the favorites. And I go, who cares? It's just for the bettors, I guess. No, I don't care that the Braves are the favorites. The Braves were the favorite this year. They had the best team. They just didn't play the best at the end. They got to get better at pitching. But they did point out in the story I read that a lot depends on what Ohtani does. Because if Ohtani goes to the Dodgers, which a lot of people think he will, the Braves will no longer be the favorites. They will drop down a slot. But I hope Ohtani doesn't go to I hope he stays in the American League. Just leave him over there. We don't want to deal with him. I don't mind dealing with him in the World Series. I don't care who we play in the World Series. I just want to be in the World Series. All right, number two on the Hesser and Kipke three things. Interesting that they had a conference call yesterday, and they're having another one today. So the news may come out on this before you were able to listen to this podcast or watch it. But in the Big Ten, they had a conference call with all the coaches, and about it was a 90-minute call, and about 15 minutes into it, Jim Harbaugh said, "Look, you guys need to talk about this. I'm going." And the coaches just told the commissioner, hey, you got to do something about this. We know this is going on. We have evidence that's going on. Everybody's coming out with all these stories that's going on. We've known it's going on. And my thing would be, well, then why didn't you say anything to anybody? Well, we didn't, protocol and everything. Well, but they want Michigan punished. Now, obviously, you're in a tough spot. Now, they're having another call today with the ADs. And it almost feels like he's going to lose the ADs and the coaches in this conference if he doesn't do something to Michigan. Now, how far would you go, though? Suspend Jim Harbaugh again for a couple of games? I don't think that's really going to have that big of an effect. Take scholarships away, fine him. You've got to discourage anything from like this from ever happening again, and that's not going to happen because the only thing to do would be say, hey, no postseason. And you're not going to do that. You got a chance to win a national title in the Big Ten. You want to take that. I mean, you don't win many of those. It's been a while. So I don't know what's going to happen, but it's the overwhelming. It's funny. Deion was the biggest story in college football, and now it's Michigan. And two guys couldn't be any more different, but anyway, it's just weird. All right, and finally, number three on Hesser and Kipke's three things. Why do fans want people to be fired all the time? Everybody fired. We talked about that. And, all the, we lost, so we got to fire the coaches. Well, because sometimes that happens. Sometimes it does happen. And it doesn't mean it's going to happen here. It doesn't mean it's going to happen in a lot of places, but it does happen. For example, at Arkansas, it happened where Dan Enos got fired after they scored 3 points against a bad defense. And, of course, this week, after on Monday or Tuesday, I said, I don't know how Josh McDaniel still has a job. I mean, I've watched him play multiple times. He's terrible. He was bad at Denver. He's not a good head coach, blah, 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 and said all that. He got fired that night. So I'm still not believing the fortune cookie story, but I won't get into it. But that's why they want coaches fired, is because they think sometimes the owner or the AD will listen to them, or the head coach will listen to them. That's why. Because they do get fired in midseason. It doesn't happen very often, but it does happen. All right. So that's our Hesser and Kipke three things. Let's get to our Leonardo's and Millhopper quick picks. Of course, we pulled a winner last week. We'll get Andy to call us and make sure we can get stuff to him. I'm actually meeting tomorrow our winner from the previous week for lunch. Friday. So and I'll get him this stuff. I gotta remember I should pull that out as soon as I get done with this show so I don't forget it. And also come like, oh, I forgot your stuff. Yeah, no, I don't want to do that. All right, so here's what we're giving you. It's two questions and they're very simple. Who wins? And no point spreads involved here. Who wins, to Florida or Arkansas? I think it's a legitimate question. I talked about how I didn't have a feel for a lot of these games. My feel for this game is Florida's going to come ready to play, that they're going to bounce back from this, even with all these injuries. I still think they're going to win, but it's going to be tough. But anyway, no point spread. Does Florida win? Who wins LSU, Alabama? Again, I'm not using point spreads here. Who wins the game? So if you think it's going to be Florida and LSU, that's all you got to type in. Alabama and LSU, or Alabama and Arkansas, whatever you want to pick, are those two games, and that'll qualify you for our next Leonardo's at Millhopper Quick Picks. Actually, going to see Kyle tomorrow night too. Man, I got a lot on my agenda tomorrow night. I don't know why I did that. I got a radio show. God, I blanked out there for a minute. Radio show at the Hilton too. We do that every home game. So got a lot of stuff going on. That's good. All right, let's get to this, that, and the other. This, that, and the other, as always, is brought to you by our great friends at Ballyhoo Grill, by Ironwood Golf Course, where the trees will attack you. Just kidding. I ran into it. The tree did not come at me. And of course, our great friends at Dar Shakow Insurance. They do a wonderful job over there. And they bring you this, that, and the other. So this, that, and the other. This is, I keep hearing really good things about Florida's basketball program and where they're going and what this team might be. And, you know, it feels like they're going to be pretty good. Now, they played 2 exhibition games, and they played them silently, because it's a weird deal. You can't play an exhibition game against a D1 team and have fans and publicize it unless you get a special exemption for a charity. But you can play the better teams and not publicize it and keep it a secret, which is kind of weird. Okay, but if you want to play like Kentucky played Georgetown of Kentucky, and it was on TV. If you want to play Georgetown of Kentucky, you can play it on TV. You can do whatever you want with it. It's a weird rule. Kind of a dumb rule, I think. But anyway, hearing good things. Then that is that the SEC media came out with their picks, and they had Florida 8 in the conference. It's not 16-team conference yet, but 8th. And we got a couple of calls on that. People were wondering about that. So the other is, I can't argue with that. I know how good this league is. I know how good the teams are in this league. Florida finishes 8th. They may get into the tournament. A lot will depend on their non-conference play, and that's going to be an issue, but especially with their point guard out for the first 3 games. But if they play well in the non-conference, they can go 9-9 in the conference and get into the tournament. So I can't argue with where they're picked. Doesn't mean they're not going to be good. Doesn't mean they're not going to be better than that. Doesn't mean they might be better than they were last year and still finish 8th. We'll see how it goes. That's this, that, and the other, brought to you by Ironwood, Ballyhoo Grill, and Dar Shakow Insurance. So let's get to our swamp games of the weekend. Jeff and I will be over there today. This is a Thursday, so we'll be over there today. It's our last trip over there because we can't do it, obviously, on Thanksgiving for the FSU game. So we'll be over there today, and we will be doing our show 4 to 6. We'll have a lot of fun. We always do over there at the Swamp Restaurant. They've got all kinds of specials going as well. Come on by. It's going to be a great weekend of football, especially for a lot of you. Go to the game, and you have a good time. You're out of there by 3:30. And go to the Swamp, go to Ballyhoo's, go to any of these places and say, sponsor this show, and say, hey, we're here to support another duly noted podcast. I'll have another. Thank you, sir. Well, I'll have another. All right. The Swamp games of the weekend, we're going to give them to you the way we do every Friday or Thursday, which is to give you the noon, the 3:30, and the 7:30 college football games. Of course, no baseball now. It's over for the year. So we won't give you those. There are games Thursday night, Friday night. Friday night games are awful. Thursday's watchable, but we're giving you the Saturday games because these are the big ones. Saturday, obviously at noon, Florida and Arkansas. That is on ESPN2. The other game, though, to keep an eye on, for me, is A&M at Ole Miss. That's on ESPN. That'll be a fun game to watch, I think. The 3:30 games, Missouri at Georgia, you're going to watch it for a while. It may get ugly like it did with Florida. And again, Missouri's going to have to not turn it over, not make mistakes, not let punts get blocked, not go for fourth downs you can't get. Anyway, I'm ranting again. That game, of course, is a CBS game. One of the last CBS games we're going to see with the SEC networks. I'm gonna miss that. And well, they'll probably still have that music from when they're playing Big Ten games, but. And then Oklahoma at Oklahoma State is on ABC, the Bedlam game. Yeah, I'm definitely going to watch it. There's some other games on that I'll be switching around to, but those are the two main ones that I think we'll watch at 3:30. And then at 7:30, what a plethora of games that are going to be played. But the two I want to see, my two TVs will be on Washington State USC on ABC. I'm on Washington USC, not Washington State. It would not be on Washington State USC. It'll be on Washington USC. On ABC, that's 7:30, and at 7:45, LSU Alabama, of course. I can't wait for that. I think that is going to be one of those games where you sit there and you just take it in. Like just let it flow over you. All right. Those are our swamp games of the weekend. I think I'm running late, so I'm not going to make this story too quick, but I'm going to tell it anyway on Pat Dooley's Storytime, as always brought to you by our good friends at Eastlake Pediatrics. Our good friend Mike Jordan, who is a big sponsor, and we appreciate him. All right, so here's my Bobby Knight story, and it happened. I'm trying to remember exactly what happened. Now you guys didn't know Gene Pullen. Gene Pullen was a great guy. Was my boss for many years, friend for many years too. A unique individual. Had an accent from Mississippi. But he was kind of the king of cool in Jacksonville, especially in the media circles. I mean, everybody followed him like a Pied Piper, especially young kids like me who were just out of college. I had one job for a year. Jeff Rube came in. We had a blast with Gene Pullen. He could get anything done. I mean, I flew on a little tiny jet, or not jet, but a prop plane up to Athens. One time to play golf with him. I mean, it was just, we did all kinds of stuff. We played so much golf. Anyway, so Bobby Knight had this famous saying that he would always say about media boys, which would be, most people learn to write in the third grade, and then we go on to bigger and better things. And he loved doing that, and he would say it. So I think it was a Gator Bowl basketball tournament. It wasn't even a press conference, I don't think. It might have been a press conference, but it might have been a luncheon. But here he comes, Bobby Knight with his line. Yeah, most people learn to write by the third grade, but then they go on to bigger and better things. And Gene Pullen stands up and goes, well, I coach my son's T-ball basketball team on weekends, but then I get up and go to a real job. Oh, you did not say that. I was laughing so hard. Anyway, that is my Gene Pullen, Bobby Knight story. And Gene Pullen was more of a hero to me than Bobby Knight. Now, a lot of people will tell you the opposite, but Gene Pullen was a great man, and I miss him. I miss him a lot. He was a special part of my life. All right, that's going to do it for another Duly Noted podcast. Hopefully Monday, I'll even have less abrasions on my face and a less of a black eye. My other eye, this eye. But we'll be in studio with Coach Spurrier. And appreciate Zach for, again, doing a wonderful job and getting this podcast up. Hopefully you guys have enjoyed it and enjoyed Tom Murphy. We'll be back again Monday with another show brought to you by Titan MRI and the Meldon Law Studios. Until then, I am Pat Dooley saying I am deep. I am way back, and I am out of here.